Greg?
Joe, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. What's going on?
Good, yeah. Nice and early in the morning here.
Yeah, I imagine. So where exactly are you located?
Zealand,
Where at?
New Zealand.
You're in New Zealand. Wow. Yeah, that is. You're on a whole other part of the planet.
Yeah,
Well, I'm in the middle of America in Kansas City. Thank you so much for waking up. Thanks for being a part of the show. I appreciate it.
pleasure. Looking forward to it.
Me too. So I would love to begin our conversation with, we look at the calendar 4 years ago, the pandemic began, and I'm wondering if we go back, how did you survive that pandemic and how did it change you?
Yeah, good question. The biggest change for me was having to adapt from doing one-on-one sort of face-to-face consulting,
Yeah.
where everything I was doing up until that point was meeting people at their offices, going out, leaving my home, going to the office. And overnight that changed. It was like I lost two clients in the first week of the pandemic,
Wow.
and thought I was going to lose them all. But strangely enough, I also got a new client, um, and decided that I had to work with them remotely. So we decided that. There was this thing called Zoom that hardly anyone knew about at that time,
Yeah.
but I'd been using for a little while, and it actually started adapting some of my work to online. So because of that experience, I decided that I could use Zoom to work online, but I also at that time adapted the way I was working as well to working with people through a group program rather than just doing one-on-one consulting. And I developed an online training course as well, having pre-recorded training. So now I had pre-recorded trainings that people could go through, work with me in a group format, as well as then do some one-on-one consulting over Zoom. So my business changed dramatically over that time. But probably it was from that perspective, it was a really good thing for me, forcing me to adapt the way I was working and come into the 21st century.
Yeah, for sure. Do you like it better now doing, I mean,
I do, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Well, now I've got an international client base. So I was actually in Australia, in Melbourne, at the time of the pandemic. I was living there, so recently moved to New Zealand. But for 12 years I'd worked and lived in Melbourne in Australia, and all of my clients were in Melbourne. But having had that opportunity to break out of location-based business, it was then opened up. So I picked up a client in New Zealand, a client in the US, a client in UK.
Yeah, that's
So
excellent.
pretty quickly within the pandemic zone, and soon after. So my business has grown internationally since then.
That's wonderful. So let's get into the nuts and bolts of what you do on a daily basis. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third graders. It's career day. And one of the kids
Mm.
says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer them?
Um, my days are pretty much filled with having coffees and talking to people about their business.
Okay.
And so, I really enjoy talking to people about their business and helping them based on my 25 years of experience in working with people and helping them in business after a previous 12 years of working in my own business. Now I get to enjoy having conversations with people, sharing the benefit of my experience, helping them not to make the mistakes I made, which were plenty, and avoid some of those hurdles and hiccups that I had in running my business, and helping them create systems and processes, helping them work out how to do their marketing better, and getting their management systems in place so they can talk to people with clear expectations and clear accountability.
So what did you want to be in the third grade? What was your dream to grow up and become?
In my third grade. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. I probably wanted to be a teacher back then, actually. Just having gone, into an experience of school. I enjoyed school. I was always good at study and learning, and so yeah, probably wanted to be a teacher back then. But yeah, now I find myself actually being a teacher, not in
Yeah.
a normal school, but yeah, I'm teaching people from my experience.
So how did the seeds of business get into you? Take me back to your childhood. How did all of this grow into who you are today?
Mm. Well, I never expected to be in business at all. I got into business accidentally. I think one day I had a disagreement with my boss about my value to his company, and found myself next day looking for something else to do. So at that point, I had this crazy thought that maybe I could run a business better than that jerk, and decided to give it a go. So I really had to learn how to sell at that point. I had never sold anything in my life, never expected to be a salesperson. I mean, I came out of school studying to be an accountant. So I was much more comfortable sitting behind a computer and working with numbers and talking to people. But in sales, I had to learn how to talk to people and sell them what we were offering. And that business was in the irrigation industry. We were selling pop-up sprinkler systems for people's homes and gardens. And yeah, had come out of being an installer, working for the other guy, installing the sprinkler systems, and now I found myself having to sell them. So, so back to school, not formally, but I got a whole lot of books, and you can see them on the shelves behind me. I still study and still learn today, but yeah, it was back to learning how to be a salesperson. So I got a few books from some famous people who thought they or had some success in selling, and learned from the experts. Managed to make some sales and survive in business, and actually did quite well for a few years
Yeah.
until I had to learn the next thing about running a business, which was how to manage my costs and cash flow, which yeah, so yeah, learning how to sell was the first part of it, but
Yeah.
learning how to manage people and manage the costs and productivity and cash flow was the big thing that nearly brought me undone.
Yeah.
Yeah, nearly went bankrupt 4 years into it,
Wow.
but then managed to get some help, not from my accountant, which was the first place I turned, and I think this probably was the seed of why I do what I do now, because having come out of that accountancy background, getting into business, really, having an accountancy background doesn't prepare you for business. It prepares you for running the numbers and understanding numbers, but I even didn't understand anything about cost control, cash flow in reality. So when I went to my accountant for help, he could only offer me theory. So I managed to find some mentors who took me under their wing and taught me about managing things like productivity and how to manage costs and balance costs along the way with that. So managed to get a control of the business, understand how to manage people, and turn that business around until it was quite successful. And people were coming to me and saying, "Greg, you seem to be doing pretty well. Can you give us a clue?"
Yeah.
So yeah, I got involved in conversations with other people in business and helping them avoid the mistakes. So I was doing that as a friend, friendship situation, not charging for anything, just as favors to people, but enjoyed those conversations so much. I thought maybe I could make a career out of this.
Yeah.
And decided to sell the irrigation business and get into consulting.
So, who's been a hero for you, an inspiration for you in your life?
Well, there's a number of people, but I think perhaps the biggest influence over the way I work and why I do what I do is a guy called Jim Rohn. He you may have heard of, and
Yeah.
a lot of people have heard of him. Yeah, he was well, back in the early days. I got all his tapes and everything I could find from Jim Rohn, and really, you know, that helped change my mindset around business. How to keep going when times were tough, how to focus on the most important priorities in business. So, I'd come from being a shy accountant to having to be someone who ran a successful business. And yeah, the most important thing I remember from Jim Rohn was it's not about becoming a millionaire. It's about what becoming a millionaire makes of you, what you become. So it's not about working hard on your job. It's working hard on yourself so that you become someone who's worthy and capable and able to be successful. So yeah, working on myself, working on my mindset, my skills, my capabilities. Yeah, that was the biggest change for me. So he was the biggest influence, I think, in me succeeding in business.
So, speaking of business, what business out there do you admire the most? Businesses that are run well, the rags to riches, is a lot like sport teams.
Mm.
We admire them for their integrity and their tenacity and all these things. What business is that for you?
Um, well, I think Apple is probably prominent. Um, Steve Jobs' story is inspiring. The way that he started the business and grew the business, but then got sacked from the business, had to go and reinvent himself, but then came back to Apple and reinvented Apple when it was going through struggles. And I think the way they operate around uh, having a few products that are really innovative and inspirational, building a fan base. Really, they don't have customers; they have fans, and building that fan base so that they have automatic guaranteed sales. Every new product that comes out, there's a line up at the Apple stores. You've got to admire that, being able to create a movement really around their products and what they do. So probably Apple
Yeah.
would be my inspirational business to emulate.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. What's your inspiration to do what you do, to do the work, to help people, and to also evolve as a person? What is that for you?
Mm. Um, I think having struggled in my own business, the first business I went into, with a young family at that time, it was tough and nearly going bankrupt. My wife had to put up with a lot of challenges, lack of money. There was one day I remember very clearly, still was probably a turning point when she went to the supermarket and found there wasn't enough money in the account to pay the um, price of the groceries that she was buying. And yeah, so I got a phone call, a very angry wife. It's about time you had a good hard look at yourself and got a proper job. Situation. So um, that that was a key to looking at what am I really about? What am I doing this for? I need to do it for my family. Need to do it for my wife, and not just have fun,
Yeah.
which and it was fun in a way. It wasn't fun a lot of the time, but it was something that challenged me, challenged my thinking. It was more than a normal boring job. And
Yeah.
I think for me, not having to work in a job that I found boring, but being able to be creative and be challenged and to grow was the fun aspect of business to me. But I had to knuckle down and actually make it a successful business for my family. And that was a turning point that day when I had to decide that it wasn't about having fun and being all for me. It had to be about my family and making sure that I was providing for them and supporting them and keeping my side of the bargain.
So, as a consultant, you have to give a lot of good advice to your clients. What's the
Mm,
best advice that you've ever gotten?
wow. I think again it goes back to Jim Rohn, where he says, "Don't wish things were better, wish you were better." And I think taking that advice meant that I had to take responsibility for my situation. So whatever was happening in my business, and I can actually remember very distinctly one day when I decided that I was responsible. Probably, was through that tough time when we were nearly going bankrupt. I was blaming my employees for not working hard enough. I was blaming the economy for being in a recession at the time. I was probably blaming the government for not giving business enough support. But yeah, listening to Jim Rohn, he said, "Don't wish things were easier, wish you were better."
Yeah.
Meant, that my finger started to point back to me and say, "Well, what am I doing to
Yeah.
cause the problems? What am I doing that can change the situation?" And really digging deep into myself and doing that thing that my wife asked me to take a good hard look at myself and really look at, well, what can I do to be better and how can I change my circumstances by tackling the challenges and getting better at being a better manager, being a better money organizer, being a better salesperson. All the skills that you need in business to survive and succeed. You don't grow and don't succeed unless you actually change how good you are in those skills.
So, of all of the things that you've done and accomplished in your life, what are you the proudest of?
Well, I think I'm still married, 44 years this year.
Nice.
Um, so a lot of people don't make it through married life and for that long these days.
Yeah.
So I think having had that look back then, and along the way I can look at times where it was nearly over. It wasn't easy for my wife to put up with me, and but being able to listen to her, um, take advice, change the way I was operating, become a better supporter, become someone who is caring more about her and the family than caring about myself.
Yeah. So, at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I still think I'm that shy, shy boy struggling to make a go of things, but being intelligent, being adaptive, being creative, being persistent. I think persistence has been the key to my success. Being willing to keep going when times are tough, not give up,
Yeah.
and just making myself do what was necessary to get through the tough times. And there've been more than one tough time. We've had various challenges over the years, and nearly gone bankrupt twice. But to be in those situations and just take responsibility, say, I'm responsible for where I am, but I can also do something about it, and I don't have to stay there. So yeah, I see myself as being that, yeah, quiet, shy guy who's persistent in making sure that I do what it takes to survive at least, and if not survive, or go better than that and succeed.
So, Greg, if anyone wants to hire you, reach out, learn more about you, any of the good business, where do they go?
Yeah, well, my website is businessflightpath.com. So reach out to me there, LinkedIn or Facebook. Just do a search on Greg Roworth and you find me pretty easily, and reach out to me there. If you wanted to learn my journey and learn some of the things I've learnt, I've written a book called Cracking the Code. So you can find that at crackingthecodebook.com.au.
Excellent. Greg, this has been wonderful. Thank you, sir, for waking up. Thank you for taking time out. Hopefully we got the juices flowing. Everything's ready to go. So I appreciate it.
My pleasure, Joe. Enjoyed it a lot.
Me too. Thank you. Have a great day, sir.